Welcome to Standing Room Only, the podcast that provides a safe space to fangirl and freak out about the things we love, from pop music to TV shows, films, musicals, books and hobbies. This is a passionate place for passionate people. Today I am talking about the first 2 episodes of the End of an Era docuseries, plus the brand new final show film, and I am joined by pop culture expert, fandom queen, Swiftie aficionado and author of Look What You Made Me Do. It's Kat McKenna. How are you doing, Kat?
Hi, Dan. I am very well. That is a very kind introduction. I thought I was going to have to pitch myself to your listeners, but you've done it perfectly for me. I'm very well. I could not be happier to be talking to you about something that, frankly, we would talk about in the pub anyway. So why not record it?
Exactly. I feel like, we need to talk about this together, and why not let everyone else hear our conversation?
Yes, that is what a podcast is, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Just give people microphones and see what they do with it. So obviously the main thing we're going to talk about is the docuseries, of which we've had 2 episodes. I suppose let's kick it off with your overarching opinions, views. Are you a fan? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it, I think it's fair to say. And I have said this on my social media channels before. For your audience that may not know, last year I published a book called Look What You Made Me Do, which is about Taylor and fandom culture. And I spent probably 2 years like completely immersed in the world of Taylor and the fandom. And so I think it's fair to say there were times when I felt I had reached max capacity on all things Taylor. I mean, she's never been more visible. There's a lot of Taylor in the media, and I went into this documentary with some trepidation. Actually, I was not sure what to expect, but it just felt like coming home, and I loved it. I loved every second about it. What about you?
Yeah, so I was thinking earlier, actually. So I've been consuming Taylor Swift music for 4 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, there's been 3 re-recordings, 2 brand new albums, the biggest tour of all time, a film, another film, and now a documentary. Do you know what I mean? There's been so much in those 4 years, and I've never been served as a fan as much as I have by Taylor Swift. So the documentary for me had quite high stakes, because I was like, it feels like this needs to be full, and do you know what I mean? Like, it has to have so much to it. And I really just felt like it was everything I could have wanted, probably more. Like, it was just such an amazing experience to just like watch Taylor Swift be Taylor Swift.
I think that's it. And I agree with you. I felt quite nervous when I sat down. I was like, okay, no, she still does this to me. Like, it's not, there's something about, like, it's just, this is almost like a really obvious thing to say. It is not just about her art and her work. Like, people do care about Taylor Swift as a brand and as a person, like way beyond just the sort of parameters of her music. And, as I think we've all talked about the mixed reception to Showgirl, and that did sort of divide the internet and the fandom, I would say, quite significantly in a way I haven't seen. And although, we do say that, and then, I've seen lots of posts about Torture Poets Department and reminding us that, loads of people hated that as well. Not me, Poet Till I Die. But anyway, exactly what you just said. I really felt like, oh, there she is. Like the second I saw her, I was like, I have really, parasocially, I have really missed just seeing Taylor Swift be Taylor Swift. And I'm going to caveat that with a big thing of saying, I know it is a filmed documentary that she produced, but I really felt like a homecoming of really, it felt like seeing a friend I hadn't seen for a really long time. Parasocial.
No, it's true. And the thing is as well, like with fandom, it's a community and it's closed off. Like, fandoms are closed off from the rest of the world, which is part of why I love them so much and being part of fandom so much. And it feels like we've had too many intruders. There's too much noise from people that, like, this isn't for you. Like, and I feel like with the Torture Poets Department, a lot of people went, this is for the Swifties, I'm going to back off. And with The Life of a Showgirl, they went, I'm going to absolutely destroy this fandom as much as I can. And it felt like a bit of a attack on the fandom in a way. And I'm like, this documentary felt like if you're watching this and you hate Taylor Swift, she might win you over, you know? This
She's
isn't
so
for you,
fascinating
and now you're going to
because,
see something.
yeah, sorry, she's so fascinating because people are so fascinated by her. And I've been a
Hmm.
fan, for the record, for about 13, 14 years. I've been there since, almost the beginning. I think the first album I listened to fresh was Speak Now. OG.
Wow.
So, I do feel I've grown up with her, and she's, I guess, grown up with me. But she is fascinating because people really want to understand why people like her so much, and they can't let it go. And that's fine because, as I've said, I've had moments where I have to divorce myself from some of her public activity, I suppose is the best way you could say it. It's none of it's really real. We can't really know who she is. But yeah, the documentary, I do feel, has had a fairly overwhelmingly positive response from even her biggest critics, and I think it is because what she does best ultimately is allows you to see her humanity shine through, and that is why her music is so fantastic. I think that is why people, like myself included, despite what my Spotify Wrapped may say, struggled with Showgirl, because it is a lot more surface, and that's okay. It's okay for Taylor Swift to be on the surface more than she is pouring out her heart and soul. But I do feel the documentary had a really good balance of, here she is, this is Taylor being vulnerable, and then also bringing us something shiny and exciting and fun, like that we can enjoy. I was very impressed by that balance, whilst between tears, between my sobbing.
Yeah, definitely. Because I suppose my main concern was that there was going to be a quite blatant attempt to reframe who Taylor Swift is. And actually, she just reminded us who she is. And I thought it was so beautifully done how they were just like, there were so many parts of it where they even said it explicitly. People have forgotten that Taylor Swift is a human being. And that was
Yeah.
so, it's been so obvious anyway to her fans. But during the documentary, it's like, yeah, like, and part of it is because she was on the biggest stage in the world and she was untouchable as a person, but also like she's a human being and she's a pop star, and those two things like are different. They're different things.
And right, I think I had
Um,
this real realization. I had this real realization moment when I saw her backstage, and there is something about that makeup that she has to wear on stage that is so theater makeup, right? And and she filmed a lot of content, like her 2024 Spotify Wrapped, and a lot of her kind of messages to fans in that kind of Barbie lover look, and it is so dehumanizing, I think, that level of makeup. So I thought, oh, I've been guilty of this too. I've just seen Taylor Swift doing her wag walks and looking like, pop star Barbie, and doing this curated show for 3 hours every night. And, I think as fans, we do not help ourselves, because I probably watched 100 live streams, it was my job, I will
yeah,
add to say. But all of that, I think, goes to dehumanize her, that she's lived this really specific 3 hours a night, and that's kind of what we've been used to seeing. And then obviously, the heavily curated new relationship, etc., etc., which is very online. But to just see her be her, and I think this is something I did want to talk about, to see her interact with her dancers and her team and the same band and the same backup vocalist that she has worked with all this time. You cannot do anything but respect and her character. It's the most telling thing for me
yeah,
will always be that the people who worked with her clearly have love for her. And I found it amazing to see, and we can go into this if you want, I found it amazing to see the contrast between that last speech she does, where they're all, crying and emotional, and they, you can feel the love, and then that first scene where she meets them, and you can see there's a few of those dancers
yeah.
that are going, fuck, it's Taylor Swift, fuck, it's Taylor Swift, oh my god, it's Taylor Swift. Like, you can see it in their eyes, and I would love to understand, you'd love to be there, wouldn't you, and be a fly on the wall and see how she gets to know those people, but it's very abundantly clear that she does.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? And I think Florence said it best. Like Florence was talking about, the skipping ahead quite a bit here, but talking about how Taylor Swift is her friend and she's soft and they're both soft people and whatever. And then she got out on that stage during the last night of Wembley and was like, fuck, it's Taylor Swift. Like, that's
I wrote
exactly
that
it.
quote
Like,
down.
there are two sides. It's crazy, but
Yeah.
it's true, isn't it? And you see it, and you see that so strongly within it. And you see it straight away because obviously the documentary was filmed chronologically. And even though each episode has its themes, it's filmed like as a chronological kind of storytelling. And I was really stunned and surprised that it started with her talking about Vienna
Mm.
and Southport, because obviously it was meant to be filmed, the filming was meant to begin in Vienna. And
Mm.
so the most fresh things that had happened in Taylor Swift's life when she sat down to record these interviews was a potential terrorist attack and the attack in Southport. So I was like,
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because you get a lot of interest. You can't help but see the rhetoric online before these things launch. And I'd seen a lot of people saying she has to talk about this, she has to talk about that, she has to, frame it. And I wasn't sure if, I would really respect if she didn't speak about those things. I will caveat by saying I'm not sure. I do so feel there are so many versions of this documentary on the cutting room floor. I do feel they probably had filmed content previously to that. And I'm actually quite interested to see what the construction of the rest of the series is, because I found it a little bit confused. That would be my one criticism. Is I was like, well, hang on a minute, the Wembley shows weren't the last shows. What was going? But to cover Vienna and Southport in the first 20 minutes, I think was a really smart. It was a really smart thing to do. It it allows her to address something really quickly that the fans are asking for. I don't know how she would escape the constant online noise. I think if it basically, what I'm saying is, if it hadn't been the first episode, I think everyone would be going, when is she going to talk about that? When is she going to talk about that? When is she going to talk about that?
yeah.
She obviously really cares about, I mean, it sounds like such a reductive thing to say. She obviously really deeply cares about that situation. I've been saying for months, like, she clearly can't talk about that for security, national security reasons. Like, it goes beyond the fandom, it's government. It's, I used to know people who work in government security in the UK, and like, you can't just talk about that stuff when you want. But
Yeah.
also, I think, to go back to this Taylor Swift as a human, it is and I don't mean to sound cynical when I say this, I cried so much watching it. I think as two British people who were there, like, not there, but like, I went to Wembley and I was, nervous about going because of all of this
Terrified.
stuff, and the
Terrified,
Southport
yeah.
stuff. I found, as someone who was doing Taylor Swift events at the time, we had crisis meetings about that. I was like, I want people to feel safe that are coming to these events. It's, really upset me at the time, and it still does. But I also think it went a long way to remind everybody of this thing, that Taylor is a person. And, I mean, it must be so hard to have a camera shoved in your face when you're just crying your eyes out about something that is really genuinely traumatic. And that in itself is quite a brave and difficult thing to do. So I really respect that the way that it was put together, the way that it was shown, the way that it was got out of the way quite quickly. It just reminded me she's had such a lot of hardship on this tour. This
Well, the
woman,
thing is,
she's
like,
truly superwoman.
but you're right. Like, they had to address it early on because of the reasons you said, but also I feel like it was such a huge moment as a person. So her responsibility as Taylor Swift, she was the one putting on these shows that potentially were going to end in disaster, and she was, the little girls in Southport were there listening to Taylor Swift's music. So
Yeah.
you, as a human being, you would feel some kind of responsibility about all of these things. So I'm 100% confident, and I know it's parasocial, but I'm 100% confident she would have wanted to address these things. She couldn't have done
Yeah.
it on a social media post. She couldn't have done it, because when you do that, you take away any control of discussion and debate and all of that. But when you do it within your documentary, you are the kind of master of that storytelling, and you are saying it how you want to say it, and you're making sure that
Yeah.
people are aware that yes, this sat heavy with me, of course it did, I am a human being, anyone would feel the same. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, and like you say, as a British person, the Southport, I've recorded my reaction to the episodes, and when she talks about Southport, I'm like, I can't talk, I pause it, and I'm like, I literally was like, I felt it so strongly because it was so devastating to see it in our
Yeah.
press and in our media. Um, yeah, I just thought, yeah, it was. And also, she had to start with it because she couldn't be like, oh, look at me having a lovely time with dancers. Oh, by the way, this happened. And now I'm dancing again. Like, it was
It
framed.
was
So I think
really
she framed it perfectly.
Yeah, it was really masterfully done, actually. And I knew that the narrative when I was watching it, I was like, I know that this is built. And actually, a couple of friends had said to me, "Oh, she does something really surprising really early on," and sort of like, "Do you want to know what it is?" And I was like, "No, I'll be surprised. God knows what it's going to be." So I knew to expect something, and I could see that the narrative was like, we're getting this build of optimism, and so there's going to be a dip, right? God, whichever, the many dips, as we've said. So I was like, which one is it going to be? But as soon as she started talking about it, I started crying. Like, as soon as she started talking about it,
Yeah.
and I, like you say, to give it the right amount of time, to also just see that, the backstage that she navigates and that she exists in, and to kind of see that through the lens of her having a very difficult experience. I think you're absolutely right that she wanted to address it, and we know she is in control of what she shows and what people see of her. But also, I think that everybody in her team would have really respected if she didn't. And the last thing I would say on this as well is, like, we have to be, I feel as fans, we have to start being more mindful of, you're not always going to get an instant response to something that happens to your favorite artist. They cannot always feed you. That they're not always going to go through a grief with you right away. And I think we need to become a better communities at allowing artists to give us their thoughts or responses to things, whatever it is, even their music, even their art. TV is a great example. Like, just have that, know that, I suppose, like, there's an infrastructure, there's a business. In this case, there's a national security, like literally her life, and the life of her fans. And we
Yeah.
got it. We didn't even have to wait that long for it. Like, she's shown us a true sense of vulnerability about the situation, and she really didn't ever need to do that. Is what I would say. But
No.
I'm grateful that she did. But she really didn't need to.
That's the thing. And I just think, and we've got so many examples of Taylor Swift over the years of being this person. Like, the
Mm.
biggest example that comes to my mind is Ronan,
Oh, I can't
and
talk about
how
Ronan.
she dealt with that and recording that stuff. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she's always been this person who, she feels it so deeply, these stories that come to her from other people, but also obviously things that directly happen to her and affect her. So it is having that trust as fans, is having that trust in her. And I think probably, the Swifties that are in and have been fans for a long time, probably did get that. Maybe some, maybe fans that are newer to this, or fans that came on board during the Eras tour, maybe because other artists do it differently, they had different expectations. I don't know. And also because social media is awful and the amount of noise is just insane on everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I immediately was like, again, like I said, it wasn't reframing, it was a reminder. I was like, yes, this is who Taylor Swift is. Of course she did this. Of course she spoke about it. Of course she met the families and then went on stage for 3.5 hours with a
Yeah.
smile on her face. Like, that's who she is.
Do
Like,
you know,
you
not
know,
to lower the tone, but I was so, like, even when she said, she sort of says, doesn't she, no matter what, she goes on stage for those 3 hours. When she said about having stomach flu, Dan, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean
I'm
you had, like, I don't understand this woman at all. And we don't need to get into the technicalities of it. I'm sure there were, emergency measures backstage in place. But I was like, I don't do anything if I have anything wrong with me. Like, I have a bit of a sore throat at the moment, and I think I'm a hero for recording this podcast. I'm like, oh, I'm so brave for speaking to Dan for 45 minutes. But when she spoke about that, and I was like, How do you do that? Like, I mean, again, I guess we don't need to know, but the point is, like, whether it is this terrifying emergency instant or just not being well or being heartbroken of God knows how many times, like how the way that she can do that and still show this level of respect for her fans, her colleagues, her staff, her boyfriend, whatever. It is true. It really reminded me, and I guess this is the other thing about this document. It really reminded me that she is just on another level. She is. This is why she's the most famous pop star in the world, because whatever she does, she just goes all in. And you know, I was rewatching that speech she does with her dance at the beginning about, like, you know, the amount of people that tell you not to do this, the amount of people who tell you this is wrong, and I just thought, gosh, she is like it. This is why we love her, right? She's just incredible.
Yeah. And like, she started that speech, and literally I started singing, "Her name is Kitty," because it is that story, isn't it? Of, but I loved it. Yeah, the initial speech, I was crying then, and like
Me
she
too.
cried during that speech, like she caught
Yeah.
herself from crying, you know. And I think that's it. I think she has immense emotional control is in abundance, and like I could never. I would be sobbing my way through that whole show. Like if it was the last show, I would. Yeah, the opening bars of Miss Americana, I'd be like, ah! um, and the physical strength and physical control. Like you say, she was poorly, but she trained for 6 months to like do this. Like, and I loved that the mechanics of. I was excited for the mechanics of the tour,
Hmm.
but actually the mechanics of Taylor Swift were also just fascinating to see, like how she works. Like, it's yeah, like you say, I don't think there is another like it.
It made me feel like, you know, she says she's in control of everything and you hear that narrative, but watching it kind of for a couple of hours made me think, oh no, she really is in control of everything. And I just want to pull out one thing, actually. I really want us to talk about her team and her dancers and to make sure we do that. But I wrote down a quote as I was watching it. I sent it to my friend, actually, because I was like, I kept sending my friend these messages being like, this is just a lovely thing. Anyway, but like after she finishes that first Wembley show, and they do a really good job of making you understand her trepidation, right, and her nerves and how she feels. So, oh, and also like seeing Ed Sheeran with her, and I don't even like Ed Sheeran that much, but I was like, it's so the
I love it.
narrative of like she has to do this thing, and it's like the hardest day at work she's ever going to have. But when she came off stage, and I think it's her tour manager, was there waiting for her and hugged her, and she said, "Did anything bad happen that I don't know about?" And he says, "Nothing bad is going to happen." Really, like made me
Oh
cry
god, I'm gonna
now.
cry
Like
just talking about it. I'm
I
like,
thought it
oh,
was
don't say
really
it, Kat.
beautiful. I thought, you know, she is really held up by these people that I just thought, oh, it's sort of this hard thing with Taylor, right? Where I think a lot of people want to parent her as well. You know, she does bring out a protectiveness in people, but I thought, you know, that moment, it was really special to see, and I think, you know, you can tell that that team of people on that tour were really very bonded for life, and that takes us, I guess, to things like like seeing the bonuses being given out, seeing Cam's story, like the way that she centered those dancers has been quite something
Yeah.
to watch.
Yeah, well, also, you know, the fact that they were in the music video for The Fate of Ophelia. It's
Huh.
like these dancers have become part of the Taylor Swift fandom now. They are trusted people within
Yeah.
her life and her team. And you can see that she has these personal connections because, like, again, what other pop star would make a documentary and say, actually, let's dedicate all this time to the dancers and to
Mm.
Cam and to understand how much the fans connected with the dancers. Like,
Huh.
we were there watching the show and watching the live streams, being like, oh, Cam's going to do his bit now. Oh, I can't wait to see Jan do this bit with the ladder. And like, literally, it was like, it wasn't just Taylor Swift on stage. And she was aware of that. And they were aware of that. And she made sure that the dancers knew and the singers and the band knew this is our tour. This is for us. This is your moment. It's not all about me. I like, again, like, yeah, it just shines through. Like you can just tell it's not bullshit. And that's what
Yeah.
I love about it. You can tell that it's not bullshit. Like, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, and that's the thing. My bullshit meter is really high with all celebrities. Like I work with celebrities a lot, and that's my other job. I've worked in celebrity marketing for quite a long time now, and I'm very lucky. I work with lots of lovely celebrities, actually. But my and you know, fandom is my other expertise. I feel like when I look Taylor Swift in the eye through a camera, um, I feel like I know her and I know when she's bullshitting, right? And I'm really I do have a quite a high cynicism for this stuff, but that is why when you get a camera in front of all these people and you just film for 2 years probably, you can't really fake that. You can edit it, obviously, you can edit the process, but what you can't do is look at a scene where she's giving her dancers like such an extraordinary amount of money as a bonus that one of them has to use an inhaler. You can't fake that. And you can even say, oh, well, she filmed it. Well, of course she filmed it. I'd film it if I had millions of dollars to give away to people I liked working with. But it is those moments are so genuine, and I think there's something I'm really interested, and I know we can't really get into this, but I'm really interested in what this documentary was going to be, what it became, how it progressed over the course of time. As she has lived so many lifetimes over this tour that I feel like they must have done many, many edits, and I feel like probably we should have got this documentary a year ago, but they were just like, how do we splice this all together? But I think one of the things that they must have learned, and you can see it on the cut of the final show, actually, I found this really interesting and emotional, was how much the dancers were loved and how much she centered them. And I don't think they could have known, they would have taken some time to learn that over the course of the 2 years of the show. And I loved that in the final show, if people haven't watched it yet, I would say it is worth rewatching if you've watched the original Eras Tour show film.
Definitely, yeah.
She spends a lot more time making sure that all of the other people on stage are shown. And I found that really amazing. I thought that's such a good addition to make it worth putting out again beyond Torture Poets Department set, which I know you do want to talk about. Just what, like, it's just interesting, isn't it? Like that we've taken these people and we got to hear their stories too. I also loved meeting Mandy Moore and Amanda. That really surprised me how much I loved that and those women.
Yeah, there's a lot. You've touched on about 1,000 points there.
Sorry.
I think we should dive into some. No, I think we should dive into some of them because it's like everything you said. I was like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Because I think the first thing is the big question. I think that people that aren't maybe fans would ask, what you mentioned is, why are you filming it? And actually, I thought with the bonuses, which I do want to talk about desperately, I thought it showed that she sets a standard, and she always has done. And people look up to her, not just fans, but people in the industry look up to Taylor Swift. And with the bonuses, the truck drivers getting $100,000 is unheard of. They said it in the documentary. The drivers do not get a bonus. The drivers don't get a bonus from any artist. They got $100,000. That's life-changing money, especially because it's a low-paid job, like whoever you are. Do you know what I mean? So, and I feel like she sets a standard. So by filming it and showing it, she's showing the industry it's possible to do this. You can give bonuses to anyone you want. You can share your wealth with the people that put you in the place that you are. This tour was a success because of everybody involved. And so I paid everybody involved like what they deserved. And with the bonuses as well, it doesn't take a lip reader to work out that number that Cam said, does it?
I don't know. I've seen the interpretations. I'm sure that's what I mean. Look, they literally one of them nearly had an asthma attack. So I'm sure it is that amount of money. But I also think
let's say the number. It was 750,000. I'm so confident.
Well, do you know what though? My thing is, I was such a Girl Scout. I'm like, I feel like if she didn't include that number, it's for a reason. So
I know, but they didn't include it. But then, like, you could like. They could have put the camera away from Cam's mouth. Like,
no,
you can see that you can see it.
Swiftie's gonna be Swifties. Yeah, I mean, it's if that is the amount of money, regardless, I thought it was like 100,000, whatever. It's an extraordinary amount of money. And actually, the only other quote I wrote down, which I will say is, and this is not exactly right because I didn't go back because I'm a bad journalist, but she does this little poem, right? There's this little card where she says, like, it's something like this: I know heartfelt meaning doesn't come from my bank, but here's X just to say thanks. And I was like, oh, of course she's a songwriter. she's a genius, but like it just felt really, you could really feel the emotion of that moment. And it also really made me realize that these dancers, you know, they're not wealthy, they're not making this kind of money all the time. The only thing I am going to not disagree with you on, Dan, but I am going to say I do think vis-a-vis other artists, I'm really wary of people criticizing other artists specifically. I know that's not what you're doing, because of what Taylor does. And Taylor Swift is in such a unique position because she runs her own management company. She is the CEO of everything that company does. And I will say, I think there will be a lot of artists like Chapel and Charlie and Billy and Sabrina who do not make those decisions financially at the end of the day. They should be able to, but record companies and, you know, artist management, they like making money. And so I think Taylor's in this incredible, she's setting an amazing example from an amazing position. So I wouldn't want
but
people
that's
to
the thing,
think,
isn't it?
oh, Billie
'Cause
Eilish is not generous. She probably is not allowed to be
no,
generous in the way that Taylor
and
is.
but then it's not about Billie Eilish. It's about, so she, like you say, she isn't just a singer performer. She is the businesswoman. She is in control of the finances and the staff and the anything distribution and the, you know, everything. And she's made a big deal of that because owning her music was important to her. Obviously on a personal level, but from a business point of view as well. You don't want people making money off of shit you could be making money off of when it's your stuff, it's your words, it's your music. So, and I think that's the thing with Taylor Swift. One of the unique positions is the entire industry pays attention to what she's doing, not just the singers. So when I say that, I don't mean, oh, Sabrina should be giving them all, you know, 20 grand. What I mean is Sabrina's management and the management companies and the labels and everyone else and the tour companies should be looking at that going, okay, this, you know, this is somebody who's very generous, but also like pays the staff a wage that they earn and deserve, because like you say, these positions are quite low paid, and creative positions are low paid, drivers are low paid. Do you know what I mean? The people that are doing the hanging the lights, they don't get paid a lot of money. So when you've got this person on stage who is known to be very wealthy and making a lot of money from this tour, like, I don't know, I just love it. And I love the fact that like the ticket prices weren't insane, as people will tell you they were, but they weren't insane.
Not in this
and
country,
how
they
much
weren't.
of
Yeah, for sure. We got
no,
a nickel.
and you're like, so how much of your ticket price then went to this person and this person and this person and this person? It wasn't just all falling in Taylor Swift's pocket so she could, you know, do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought,
oh my gosh, I agree with you completely. The labels and the management and the businesses behind these artists and all art. So I work in the publishing industry, and the money it's not great there either. So I completely agree. If I could see a P&L, profit and loss, for this tour, I'd be like the happiest woman in the world. I would love to see
episode 3,
the budget. Just for McKenna, please show me the budget. I just want to know. I mean, you know, you think about it, right? And this is coming on to, you know, potentially thinking about the future episodes. I'm sure there's going to be an episode about the fashion. And I'm like, did they gift her those outfits? You know, like obviously like the Cavalli 1989, like the new outfits that has their logo all over it. Like, did she pay? Did Vivienne Westwood? Did they have a brand deal? This is stuff that really excites me, and I love that stuff. I would love to know, because I am a businesswoman, and I run my own business, and I am very inspired by the Taylor Swift who presents herself as a businesswoman. So I would love nothing more than an episode where she just sits down with the budget and just goes through it line by line. That would be my dream. I won't get to that dream.
There you go. So Taylor Swift, if you're listening, you've got a couple of days to reframe episode 3. But no, I agree. And like another thing you touched on as well was Mandy Moore and the choreography. And that again, giving the narrative over to Amanda and to Mandy Moore and being like, this is the woman who was me during rehearsals, who had retired from dancing, and do you know what I did? I offered her the opportunity to join me on stage. Like that again, I was like, oh my God, that's just so emotional, because you know this, and it's like, you know, sports people, there's an age where they retire, and when they get to that point, like John Cena's just done his last ever wrestling match. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's such a big moment. And for somebody like Amanda, who isn't big and famous, you don't get that fanfare when you exit the dream career that you've built and worked hard on.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift kind of gave her that moment that she didn't get. Do you know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah, she
I
had that
just
confidence.
loved that.
She had that confidence in what she probably saw was a fantastic dancer and probably saw. I have this thing where sometimes I call Taylor Saint Taylor. um Because it's true, right? You know, she likes to be seen as a wonderful, generous person because she is a wonderful, generous person. But I don't know how many artists or artist managements would look at a sort of retired dancer and say, no, you should be on stage doing this too. You would fit perfectly. And I hadn't actually made that connection until I watched the whole of that segment. I was like, oh yeah, she was on stage. Oh yeah, but it's really fascinating to watch. And you know, I think a lot of people, one of the criticisms I saw of the Eras tour, one of many, I'm sure, was people saying it felt like a stage production and it didn't feel like organic enough, or as organic as some bands. And I really would challenge that because, you know, I went to see Lady Gaga in Summer, best night of my life, and that was a heavily curated show as well. It's just that Taylor has a sort of well, she has a clan of haters and and quite a she has an interesting way of presenting herself that does feel kind of stage show-esque, right? But how else could you do that show would be my first question about that.
Yeah.
Same
I think
about
just on that as well, quickly,
Oh,
like, yeah, because I think with that, like, this isn't the conclusion that I think it is, but what I've drawn it is there were two massive tours that took the internet and completely played everyone's For You pages. One of them was Harry Styles' Love on Tour,
yeah.
and one of them was the Eras Tour, and they were so different in every single way. But Harry's shows were so personal, and he had this moment where he talked to the audience, he read signs, he did all of this, and that was part of his show. And I almost feel like people were kind of drawing comparisons, unfair comparisons between the two different kind of shows that you can put on as a performer. But with the Eras tour, and this documentary is really demonstrating it, is every second, every beat was planned out, and it was 3.5 hours. And I actually disagree. I think it was a very personal experience because
Oh, me
she
too.
is, like, whatever fan you are in that audience, if you are there for the singles, if you just want to shake it off and that's all you know, you're catered to. If you want the deep cuts, you've got the surprise songs. You've got Fearless, you've got a bit of Speak Now, you've got Red. Like, you're being reached out to. If you are there, like, whatever you're there for,
Yeah.
whatever part of Taylor Swift you fell in love with, I think you got served it at some point during the show.
Agreed. And
So
also,
yeah,
I just don't know how else you would undertake it. But more to the point is the way that that's curated. The fact that she brought in Mandy Moore, who was previously a film, or was, you know, more known as working in film and stage, I believe. It's just a really smart move, and you know, it did make the tour feel fresh. And I think it's really easy for everyone to forget that when we first saw the tour, and we know it obviously did change over time, gearing you up to Torture Poets Department, Dan. But when we first saw it, everyone was like, "What?" You know, like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that introduction, and I will say, I must have seen that introduction to that. I don't even know how many times, and I cried my eyes out when I went. I really thought, "Oh no, what if I've oversaturated myself and I'm now immune to the Eras tour?" But I
yeah,
wept so much. I was so emotional. Like, just there's something really different about being in a stadium and living it. But you know, those visuals, the first time we saw them, the order of the tour, the sets, the songs, the surprise, we were surprised for quite a period of time as to when that launched. And I think it's quite interesting now because it sort of feels like it's so familiar to many fans because we've seen it a million times. But it's an incredibly put together show, and I will be so interested to see how she follows it with future tours. No pressure to Taylor Swift. I'm not chanting more. I'm just really curious
it's
to see what
crazy,
she
isn't
does
it?
next.
But that's the thing, because I loved moments that I loved in the documentary that were smaller were her sitting on the floor and being like, so then we're going to do these songs from Red, and then we're going to do like this, but this is also going to fade into this. So like the "Don't blame me for what you made,"
Oh,
like
it's my
having
favorite
that kind
bit.
of like all of it. And then, oh, I'm going to change the end of Cruel Summer, so it's going to do this. Like seeing that, that was fascinating to me. Seeing the band practicing and
Yeah.
her singing just with the band there, no choreo, just literally the vocals. Practicing bass guitar in a shower because
Mm.
it's quiet and that's where you want to just get knuckle down and get to it. Um, and then from that, seeing how she put together Florida and having
Yes.
Florence there for one night potentially, and like the guy just being like, I say the guy, this is really bad. I should have written his name down. But when he's just like, yeah, she wanted to do this, and it was like we had to do everything, and like I don't know. He just looked, even talking about it, he looked absolutely like bewildered that they'd done it. Like we
Yeah.
did this, and I don't understand. Like it should be impossible, but we had to do all this, and it worked for one show. Like
That's
crazy.
why she's at the top of her game. But also, like, how cool to give Florence the. I feel that Taylor respects all of her artistic collaborators, but I do feel she's somewhat in awe of Florence, and as she should be. Oh my goodness, when I was, when they were showing the rehearsals and Florence was just singing, and I was like, oh, she's just the voice of a goddess, like just la la la,
Yeah,
I was like, this is amazing to get to just even see that. But I feel that Taylor clearly holds Florence in such high regard that she was like, we have to do this as it is intended
yeah,
with it. And the Florida is such a theatrical song as well. It sort of does completely deserve that. And then I do wonder
yeah,
if because they were able to put together a Torture Poets department set in 3 months, I do wonder if they then thought, okay, well, we can do this. Like, we can do this quickly. We can do this with the vision. And again, I think because Taylor clearly leads that vision, it's her art. She knows exactly what she wants it all to look like. And, again, as a writer, as an artist in my own right, although a slightly smaller scale, we can dream.
for
You
now.
do, I think you do have quite a clear vision of how your work translates into lots of different mediums, if you're that kind
Yeah,
of thinker. And so I'm kind of not surprised that she could put that Florida set together with her team. And also, I think by that point, you could see that her team and her dancers and her choreographers and stuff, like, they were speaking a language, like when you collaborate with people for long enough that you have this shorthand and you can just go, you do that,
yeah,
like, you could see that was really flowing. And so it was possible. That's not to say it's not an amazing
yeah,
feat, but it was really cool to get to see that.
yeah. Because there were a couple of bits of that whole thing. One was the hilarious moment where Taylor was like, Florence is so down to do choreo, and then Florence
Yeah.
comes in and she's like, I just normally float across the stage,
Yeah.
and I don't know what I'm doing. And then the fact that, and I think what it comes down to with Taylor and Florence is they both have such a strong sense of self, and I don't think they negotiate on that.
Yeah.
So Florence is like, okay, I'll do these moves, and she does them, and it's like it just looks like Florence. Like she could have come
Yeah.
up with this dance. It could have been her floating across the stage. It was so natural and witchy and ethereal, and do you know what I mean? Like Taylor Swift is there and she's like hitting the marks, like bam, 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 bam. And Florence is there like, I'm in a woods and there's fairies. And like, it's just
Because
magical to see the juxtaposition of them.
And I think at the end of the day, Florence is a complete professional too. She's been doing it for years. I'm sure part of her knew once that dress was on, once she's on the stage, once she, that she would deliver. And then I loved the sort of, oh, I don't know how to put this without annoying people. The kind of like witchy gayness of Taylor in that performance. Like, I'm not going to go there, but it just
Let's not
felt
do
like
that.
Taylor met Florence's energy. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was being Taylor,
Yeah.
but then she was like, she's such a professional that she knew how to pull to Florence as well to make it look as good and witchy and weird and kind of, yeah, like sexy and like, yeah, as it
Mm.
was. So yeah, I think you could rely on
Yeah,
both of those
definitely.
women to bring what they bring and meet in the middle of that stage. And it really did feel, I mean, I wasn't there, sadly. I was absolutely
No, I
furious that I
know.
missed it by
And
night.
then Jack Antonoff came out and, don't even talk to me
What
about
a
it.
night. I missed it by one night. I think it was at Wembley night two.
I was at
So
6.
ah anyway, yeah, just an amazing thing. And I am very curious to see where it goes next. I'm really hesitant to sort of try and to say I want to see this and I want to see that, because I know there's much more to come, and I do feel that Taylor does surprise us with content, actually, and so I'm
Yeah.
loath to say, oh well, she hasn't talked about this, and she hasn't talked about that, because she might. And I actually do kind of think like anything's possible now with these next episodes. I
Yeah.
do feel we
Well,
could get anything.
well, because I was so taken aback by how much focus was put onto other people within the tour. So I'm expecting more about the band and about the musicality of it. I'm obviously expecting more about what it looks like to write a new album
Yes.
and also be touring. And it's like when she said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go on a break now. I need to disappear." And I was like, "But that break, Taylor, was you adding a new set to the tour? So was it a break or was it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was so much like to it. I fully expect surprise songs to take up the majority of one of the episodes. I really, really hope it does, because seeing her put together the mashups and come up with those, and like I and to like
Yeah.
be transported back to these songs that were part of the re-recording process, but also part of her teen years and early 20s and other relationships, while she's there mixing them up with something that's really modern and recent. Like, I don't know, I just the whole mechanics of that would be fascinating to me to watch.
There's quite a lot of things I would love to know, vis-a-vis specifically the surprise songs. I would really love to know how she picked, because there was so much conversation, wasn't there, about how she picked them, and I found it really
Yeah.
fascinating throughout that she really did feed every facet of every part of the fandom with those surprise songs. And I,
Yep.
I found it really funny, because without deeping it, I'm a big 1975 fan, so the relationship with Matty Healy did strike a chord in my heart for the short brief period it was existed. um
The
but
smallest man who ever lived.
I'm gonna cry. Anyway, so I found it really interesting because I would watch her perform surprise songs through a lens, and then I would go onto TikTok and I'd be like, oh, so this other part of the fandom see it as this, and this part of the fandom see it as this, and like it's so fascinating. And I anyway, all that to
Yeah.
say, and you can cut that out if you want, Dan, I would love to know how intentional it really was, how
Nope.
thoughtful she was about it, whether she went on vibes, whether she did really because everyone was like, Taylor Swift is now communicating us exclusively through surprise songs. The only way we will know how she feels today is through whether she sings like Dress or or Dear Reader or what, like
Yeah.
that was the narrative, right? And I'm like, was it like that? So there's that part I would love to know. I suspect it probably wasn't that deep. But also just how she constructed, and I
Oh,
know
I
we
don't
will
know.
get,
I think it was.
as in an
I think it
expression,
was
but
that
like an
deep.
expression of herself, not like us communicating with
I
her.
think to a point. I think what we'll learn is, yeah, no, because I think there are points where like everyone was like, "Oh, she's going to play Comeback Be Here in London." Obviously, she's
Yeah.
going to play London Boy in London. Obviously, like
Oh yeah.
there were those obvious connections. I think there will be occasions where she's like, "I'm pissed off. I'm going to sing some angry songs. I'm emotional. Let's get sad with it." Like I do, and sometimes you can kind of see it, and sometimes like when she cried during some of these surprise songs, um, I'd love to see her talk about things like Exile and how the crowd joined in with Exile. I'd love to see her talk about,
I was
is this
there.
too much of a
I was
deep cut?
there.
Don't talk to me. Like, is it too much of a deep
I
cut
was
to
there.
do
Now I
the
get
song
to win. I make
from,
you cry.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it'd be fascinating to
it
see all of that.
is an amazing thing. And the other thing, I'm just to cut round of surprise songs, when I was watching the movie and she does oh, it's New Romantics X, A Place in This World, isn't it? And I did think, like,
Mm.
if you were like the casual viewer, if I was sat down at Christmas and made my family watch this, would they be like, "Wha- is this a song or is this a 7-minute song that's, like that? When did she basically decide that what she was going to do was start doing those mashups? And they obviously took on a life of their own. And did they connect? Do they connect in this? Because I think the whole point of the documentary and being on Disney, right, is that she does bring herself to an even broader audience. It's like, does her sitting down singing You're on Your Own Kid connect in the same way as singing Long Live X, the manuscript X, New Year's Day? Oh my God, Dan, I cried. I forgot that she put New Year's Day in that mashup, and I sat there and cried the whole time. What a song.
Honestly. But that's the thing. I just think it's for the fans. And I will even go as far to say that the first Eras Tour film was for everyone. This is me. Look at me. I'm going to clean up my vocals a little bit. I'm going to make it really all about, the stage performance. Here I am. Look at me. I am Taylor Swift, biggest pop star on the planet. Look at me go. And the second film is like, here you go. For the fans who want to remember what it was like to physically be there, here is the Eras Tour. And it felt so different. It felt so much more magical from someone who watched every live stream, not everyone, but, and was there. And I don't know, I felt like, yeah, this is what it was like. This is how it felt. This is how it sounded. Like this second film was so much, I don't know, it felt so much more like fan service, but not because of obligation, because of she wanted to do it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and it was very emotional to watch. In case you can't tell, I cried a lot watching all of this stuff. I wonder if it will happen with episodes 3 and 4. I'm not sure, but anyway. But it felt very, very emotionally charged to watch the final show because it was the final show, and I thought, actually, her vocals don't sound as smooth, and I actually thought, I don't think she's lip syncing very much at all in this final show. Because, and that, again, that is not a criticism of Taylor. I understand why she lip syncs. Like I said, I can barely talk on a podcast for an hour without needing a honey and hot water. It's important that she lip syncs to save her voice. It's all fine. We don't care. We still shook it off. No one notices. But I really felt in this final one, I was like, I think she's singing almost every single bit. And I get why she did, because she doesn't need to rest her voice next week, or she's not performing again. And I loved seeing that. I felt that it really felt very intentional, and you felt her put her, and the last Champagne Problems applause, that is something that, of any of the moments mapped out in that tour, that you could maybe say didn't always feel as off the cuff authentic, because it was kind of became like a Rocky Horror Show kind of thing that everyone did, right? But that, again, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She looks genuinely so emotional. I was trying to remember which show there's the show right when she breaks down. I think maybe it's the penultimate show with Champagne Problems, when she made a face where she looked really genuinely upset. But you're right. It's for the fans. I think she's less afraid of people criticizing her vocals and her performance and stuff this second go round, and it is a fantastic visual viewing experience. I really thought I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to watch the Torture Poets Department set. Literally, I was like, oh, right, okay, no, I'm not. I'm going to watch Lover, and I'm going to watch every single fucking era.
Yeah, I did the same, because I was like, I'll just put it on. But I was like, I'll watch the beginning to see how different it is. And you're hooked. You're hooked. And then when she played, first of all, I'll go back to the Champagne Problems thing. I feel like the Champagne Problems thing felt forced until you were physically there.
Agreed.
And everyone was genuinely going wild. And then I was like, no. If I was Taylor Swift on that stage, it doesn't matter how many times this has happened to me, I would be beside myself if this happened. Do you know what I mean? And I get that she has this she has these facial expressions that are obviously practiced, maybe not even intentionally, but she's Taylor Swift trademark. This is her face. She's going to be like whatever. But when you're there, you're just like, it was, and when people start banging their feet, and it just naturally progresses from this cheer to, and even though it's this is the moment we do it, it still feels so natural and so yes, this is the time I get to scream, and she can hear how much I have loved this show. Let's go for it. And I feel like that's that. I can't remember what my second point was going to be. I'm
just going to touch on that very briefly while you think about it. I cannot express what a not normal thing that is for a person to experience. You and I have been on stage together, fair enough. Waterstone's 100 people, it's not quite the Eras Tour. But even when someone just laughs at your joke in the audience, you feel like a king. You're like, oh my God. So It is. I don't doubt that her response is genuine. It is really, it's a really strange and not normal thing to have hundreds of thousands of people be absolutely in raptures over art that you made. Like, I
Hmm.
it, it just, again, and I think because we see all this stuff on the live streams, it does boggle belief that that happens to a person, and how that person would feel in that moment about it. So we've normalized a lot of these strange things because we've watched it all every night for like 2 years.
Yeah, and we forget. I think it's really easy to forget because Glendale, Arizona feels like so far ago. But a lot of these things didn't happen um, on the first show. So, like the first show, there was no hand hearts in Fearless.
No
There was
friendship
there was
bracelets.
there were no, it was all progressed and progressed, and then the Champagne Problems thing. One of the things I love about it is that it's just her and a piano, and that's
Yeah.
the moment that the crowd goes mad. It's one of her best songs lyrically. I don't care what you say. Like, it's the storytelling, the bridge, the kind of, it feels so vulnerable. And I know it's like, oh, it's not really about her life, but I'm like, come on now. Like, this feels so Taylor Swift in every single way. And then she does that song and it's like the crowd absolutely loses their mind. Like, it just feels like
Yeah.
everything about it. It was just like, yeah, I don't know.
I
I love
I
that
was
moment.
I was very lucky to be at the Red Tour because I'm an OG fan. Don't know if I've mentioned that. But I was at the Red Tour, and it really reminds me. Champagne Problems really reminds me of when she used to perform All Too Well, and there are some incredible
Mm,
original All Too Well performances, like I think the Grammys. There's another one that you can watch online, but
hmm.
the way that she is connected to her piano and her music, and you're right, it is spectacular to watch someone. And I actually think the folklore segments will be some of my favorites always, because that music is not typically stadium music, and the way that she's still able to
Yeah,
connect with everyone. um like Marjorie always makes me cry every time. Oh my God, I could not handle it in the stadium. But
no, it's
she
crazy.
is so a song like Champagne Problems that is very stripped back, and you're right, it's one of her best lyrical songs. It obviously comes from a place of her heart somewhere, even if it is a fictionalized account. That I do believe the feelings are real. In that song, we may not know what they relate to, but that's okay. Yeah, and it touches people. Everyone wants to say, "What a shame she's fucked in that," like who hasn't been a
Yeah.
woman or a man scorned by someone who thinks they're crazy, and that's that's the magic of
Well, it
Taylor.
is.
That's what she does.
But that's the thing, isn't it? And the show went from people being like, I'm going to scream, what a shame she's fucked in the head, to then people going, I'm going to get all that out during a minute and a half long bridge to the smallest man who ever lived.
The best bridge.
Um, and that's the thing, like, you don't get stadium tours where people are singing these lyrics. They're not easy lyrics, like the Champagne Problems bridge. You know what I mean? Like November flush on your flannel cure. Like, who expects to go to a stadium to scream that? But you do.
Yeah,
And, like singing about sleeper cell spies in the middle of Wembley. Like, it's such a unique, such a
yeah.
unique thing that only Taylor Swift does. But yeah, and I don't know. And then the Talk to Post department in general, like, I think watching the set in the new film just made me realize, like, I feel like I was putting aside some of my love for that album because I was allowing some criticism to seep in there. And then I like saw it again and I
No.
was like, no, I think two of my favorite all time, if I had a top 10, I think two of them would come from the Torture Poets department. And it would
Oh.
be But Daddy, I Love Him, which I think is one of her best songs. Don't even try and argue with me. And Lommel, LOML, which
Oh.
that song, as soon as I heard it, had such a chokehold on me. And I think those, like, yeah, I just think as an era, as an album, as a set on the Eras tour, it was like my favorite. It's like my favorite. I don't know how else to explain it
And
apart from to say that. Do you know what I mean?
I think the
Yes.
thing about the Torture Poets department is that she explains it in the documentary, right, as almost being like its own film, or like its own vibe. And I think that probably when they were curating that, they had a lot of confidence in the tour, and she obviously thought, right, I can really go in and make this feel all the feels. Like, what did she say? I'm going to go crazy during this song, like. And I, as
Yeah.
you know, I love the Torture Poets department so much. I think it's so beautifully raw, and I get that it could do with an edit. I love every single song, and I find it every time I listen to it, I find new things to be very interested in with every single listen. Can't
Yeah.
stress that enough. I love it. To see it live, and also because no one really knew if she was going to do that, I was so convinced she was never going to do it. I was like, she can't stand on stage and be mean to her fans in the format of a show. I was wrong. I was like, she can't have the crowd chanting more in a literal crowd. Anyway, I was wrong. She did it amazingly. It was incredibly, fantastically done. But I will say, when I saw, I've never been the biggest fan of Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. I don't know why. I just it didn't quite hit when I was listening to it.
Yeah.
When I saw that on the tour, I was like, oh my God, I was like, this is the best song I've ever heard. It was amazing to see her be able to put her energy into that. And I also think this is really boring, but on a technical level, I find the Torture Poets department a really clever set, and its placement really clever because she gets quite a lot of downtime in that set. She gets to stand still, she gets to sit down, she gets to lay on the Roomba, she gets to, so she is able to physically rest a bit as well, which I think is a really intelligent way of. And then she does The Smallest Man Who Ever Lives, and all hell breaks loose. And it is a fantastic, no matter who the song is about, it is a fantastic song, and it is a fantastically, again, it's just like All Too Well. It's just like Champagne Problems. Everyone's had that guy who they just think, I hate you so much right now. And it's the theatre of it, bringing in the drama where she gets shot, it's just so genius, and an amazing expression of something I think must have been very, very hard to put down. It was very close. If you think about when she performed those songs and when she experienced those songs before she wrote them, it's not a huge amount of time. So God love her for being able to express something very difficult personally in her art and on stage. And, she's no one else is doing it like her.
No, that's the thing. And I just think there were some surprises on that tour. My biggest surprises were that my favourite sets were 1989 and the Torture Poets department, where I expected them to be Reputation and Folklore. And they were still incredible, but there was something about 1989 that, again, talking about timing of it, I was stood there thinking, how was she doing this? I'm knackered. And then 1989 comes on, you're like, let's go, let's party, I'm ready to dance. And then with the Torture Poets department, it was just like all this emotion, so raw. The crowd were just screaming these lyrics. Like, as a participant in the Eras tour, those two sets for me were like, I will never forget moments within those two sets. So
let's just be so real. 1989 has the best pop songs ever written, and that set is, even though some people might say, oh, they're just all the singles, oh my God, like next level energy boost, right?
But also, like every song on 1989 was a single. What do you mean? Like she did so many music videos. Like, and she could have done more. Like, Out of the Woods could have been there, and that had a music video. Like, we could, do you know what I mean? Like,
I would have loved. Yeah, I know. Would literally like she could have just done the 1989 tour again, and I would have been completely fine with that. Alas, we can't have her do everything. It's a really special event, and we've seen for like 2 years, right, people calling it a phenomena, and I think I got a little bit fatigued of hearing that, and then watching the show and watching the documentary, I'm like, oh no, it was, when she says like 10 million people came to this show, I was like, oh no, it was a phenomena, and I just forgot that it was, like how everyone was saying, like, not everyone, but like there was that thing about the post-tour amnesia. I think I had like post-documentary amnesia. Like I like blacked out with joy just reliving and re-remembering how just formative that tour was for everybody who enjoyed it, and everybody who was there. It's just, it is a phenomena, and we've still got 4 more episodes to enjoy. So I'm really, What do you think is going to be next? What do you think she's going to cover?
No, I think surprise songs, definitely.
Yeah.
I really hope that she will include the Eras tour, of the things that went wrong, because I
Yeah,
think she will. I think she will. I think she'll show like we had everything planned down to everything planned. However, microphones ran out of batteries. The hill flew off my shoe.
yeah,
I swallowed a bug. The piano was haunted. Do you know, the rumba
yeah,
didn't work. I had to run off the Reputation stage, but as I ran, it went down anyway. Like
yeah.
I love those moments of like, no matter how much you plan something, things
Mm.
happen, and this is how we dealt with them. And I'm so confident we're going to get it. That if we don't, it'll be fine because
And
we're getting
and
so
I
much.
would
But
just love to like
like,
see her have a bad day at work, or like see. It's amazing to see how
mm,
connected all the dancers are, but that's hard to do that for all of that time. Like injury, there have been trailers I think that have shown injuries and pain and stuff. Not that I want to see everyone in pain, but I would really like to see a little bit of a demonstration of like how hard it is to do that undertaking to set. And for her to, like we said with the surprise songs, like it's actually really hard to completely deconstruct your songs and put them back together again. And like I'd love to see her try and do one that doesn't work, or try and do one she's like, I don't want to sing that anymore. I'm not in the mood to do that now. I want to do this instead. And like just the genuine
yeah,
behind the scenes nature of what a big operation like that entails. Like if I can't have the budget, I want
yeah,
some of the shit. And then you get that really funny thing, right, where you then get the errors bit as well, which is lighter. So I could see a really good episode
yeah.
covering all.
Someone in my comments, yeah, someone in my comments suggested that for the Eras tour, at the end of the final episode, they do a bloopers reel of the Eras tour, and this is like an old styly '90s film that always had the bloopers reel at the end. Like I'm like I'd settle for that. I would like more of an explanation about how she felt, but I'll settle for a bloopers reel.
We'll get a bloopers reel. It's Taylor Swift. She must. There was one at the end of the first movie, wasn't there? So she's bound to have more in the
Yeah,
can.
but no, yeah, that was. I think we covered a lot. We covered a lot in this discussion. But
I'm just
I
trying to
could.
think if there's.
The funny thing is, I could carry on for another 3 hours, but we have been talking for a while now.
We have to save it for episodes 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 if we come back and do the next lot, if people want us to. No, what a fun thing to get to discuss. And it is, yeah, I get, we've said it a million times, but just like the power of Taylor Swift, and the way that she continues to inspire people, the way that I can't stress so much how much I'd missed human Taylor Swift. And I don't
Yeah,
ask that she gives that to us all the time. I really appreciate, especially post Torture Poets Department, why she may wish to have a bit more privacy in her life and what she puts out. But it was just so nice to see her, Dan.
I know. And the thing is, I'll say is the final thing I want to say is like, obviously, this podcast is about fandom. We love fandom, fan spaces. And I just feel like, as a fan of so many things, so many people, so many everything, I've never felt so like satisfied
Yeah.
as I have from watching the documentary and then the final show. I just feel, as a fan of Taylor Swift, I'm like, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. I've got everything I could possibly need, and I just feel very grateful that it's been presented to
Mm.
us in this way. And now, to the point where now I'm like, I before was like, I've got a nuanced take on Taylor Swift. I'm not going to be like too parasocial. And now I'm like, you talk shit about Taylor Swift, I will fight you to the death.
Yeah,
I
that's
will
how I
follow the
felt.
woman into war. I will. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I will tear everything down that disagrees with the Taylor Swift phenomenon, because I just parasocially I love her.
Me too. And I suppose the last thing I would say to completely to that point is, and I said this on Instagram after I watched the first 2 episodes, if something makes you feel this happy and this good through your tears, like that's just what I love about fandom culture and like just music and just pop music specifically, but just things that make you feel this happy. It doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't ruin anyone else's day unless they choose for it to ruin their own day. Um,
Yep.
just how joyful to be able to just love something in that way, and to make, you know, like I said, when I sat there at 7 p.m. crying because she sang Lover again, I was like, this is just the most beautiful thing. I felt very Pollyanna about it. I was like, this is lovely, and I'm really glad I get to experience that, because not everyone does, and I know your audience who are listening do feel the same way. So I just want to say, keep feeling that way, keep the joy, and be nice to each other.
Pop culture. That's the thing, it is. And like, the world right now needs pop stars. We just need pop stars. And like
Yes.
shedding away everything else, we just need pop stars to be pop stars sometimes. And I think now is that time. And not to get too deep into this because it's the end of the episode, but sometimes we need pop stars to be pop stars, and we need to just watch them and let it happen. And this is one of those times. And I'm very grateful we have pop stars, and Taylor Swift is one of them.
I'm going to cry again. I agree. Pop stars are amazing. Pop stars are amazing. Fans are amazing. Be nice to each other, everyone. Just don't fight over pop stars.
Yes,
just love them and enjoy them.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dan.
But no, that's it. Thanks so much, Kat, for joining me. This has been so much fun. I've loved every second.
Me too. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll do more of this, I'm sure. But I've had a wonderful time. I hope everyone loves the next episodes.
Yay. I'll speak to you soon.